you can't really write a screenplay unless you have a very organized mind. And if it's organized, I need to get the sense of the progress of the narrative from those 2 pages. If you pass randomly from one episode to another, it's not really a story, it's a collection of episodes put together, and you will be very, very little in control of what the audience will get from your film at the end. That's not what I want to do. I need to make sure that I talk about something, and it's really important to get the structure from the beginning. And I insist about this idea of the log line because I think that the log line is the essence of what you want to talk about. If you are capable of saying this into 1 sentence or 3 sentences, matching the 3/3 of the screenplay, chances are that developing each of them, and it's not about, we got a lot of log lines here and even outlines, keeping most of the story for later on. And from that moment on, something unexpected is going to happen to him. Tell me what? Unless you tell me what, I won't read your application. I need to know, and this is what a log line and an outline are for. Tell me what I'm not the audience. I don't have to be surprised. You just tell me, make me read your application, your screenplay.
The stage directions for you as a writer, the most important thing you're doing is you need the reader to imagine the movie. Don't worry about everybody else making the movie, what they keep, what they don't keep. Your job is to tell a story that somebody wants to make a movie of. That's kind of the most important thing. So you're going to need, beyond everything else, you're going to need the stage directions along with the dialogue is to take someone's imagination through the ride you're setting up, through the script. So in a way, when you write, I find, I want the script to take me on a journey. If your stage directions take me on a journey, don't worry about everybody else. Don't worry about people's ego. They're big fucking egos in the film industry. They'll do whatever they do. Your job is to write the story, because here's the thing. I think sometimes you get, people who are starting out get the impression of, oh my God, I'm the least important person here. William Goldman, who was a very famous screenwriter and writer, wrote, if you really want to be a writer in control of your work, go write novels. Because in screenplays, you're going to get rewritten, all that stuff. But here's the thing, yes, on some level, you're not in control of it. On another level, without you and without your screenplay, there is no movie, because practically, talking about as a director and a producer, the script is the first physical thing that exists that you can take to people to get money. Because unless you're Steven Spielberg or Christian, you're not going to get financing based on your idea. No one cares. No one trusts you to give you, $500,000, $2 million, $50 million based on something you're saying in a room. But if they have a script that works, they're like, okay, I understand how this is a movie, right? Ideas don't get copyrighted, but scripts do, because that someone's put the work into showing how the story is told.
I would just make a very small comment about the status of the screenwriter. It's important to say that maybe in cinema the director is considered to be very important, maybe the most important person that the actresses might want to date, but in television, since we are here with HBO, the scriptwriter is way more important. I'm telling you this is a fact, in the sense that they produce content. And in television, as much as Jonathan was telling us yesterday about authorship, it's mostly about the story and who's going to produce that story. They might hire different directors. The concept of a writer-director, of an author in miniseries is not yet, very, very, very deeply rooted. So whenever you want to date an actress, it's easy. It's better to be a screenwriter.
Okay, so next thing, what I expect from a screenwriter. The thing that I treasure the most is that you surprise me, right? So we all read a lot of scripts. 95 to 99% of the time, we know what's going to happen, how it's going to end, and what you're judging is how well they've executed it. Ideally, you surprise me. What this really means is that you kind of really need to study your genre, like what you're writing in, if it's action, if it's science fiction, if it's comedy, even if it's a film about your own life, whatever it is, I suggest you watch a lot of good movies that are sort of in the same genre, because you learn the rules of what works, what doesn't work, then you can work in the genre and then surprise me. So the thing is, again, I find, again, one person's opinion. Here's the problem, the challenge of most screenwriters. You start writing the script long before you understand whether the story works or not. Here's the revelation to you for me. Work on your story and the idea of the movie for at least 60% of the time you spend writing. Then I'd spend like 30% of the time figuring out a structure for the story, and then I'd spend like 10% of the time writing scenes. Because honestly, most screenplays, when they fail at the idea stage. They don't fail at the, what the dialogue is, or what the descriptions are, that stuff. They fail because the idea isn't strong enough. They fail because people often have an idea for a movie, and the idea works for 10 minutes. But you're trying to create an experience that works for an hour and a half, for 2 hours. So my suggestion to you, and this is not my idea, there's a friend of mine who wrote a screenwriting book about this, guy named Alex Epstein, and he wrote something very smart. He said, what people should do, here's the big tool. When you have your concept, when you have your first premise, your idea for the movie, go out and pitch it to people. Tell friends, tell strangers, approach a guy at a cafe, and say, hey, can I tell you a story? Because if you do it in person, you can look in their eyes and you can understand when their interest starts to go away, right? It's an invaluable tool, because again, most movies fail at the idea stage, right? And it's because I find here's the thing. So a teacher of mine who happens to be a Romanian theater and opera director, Andrei Șerban, he taught me in theater school, and he said, he taught us something very important. He said that as a director, your job is to be both inside and outside the material at the same time. So as a writer, my feeling is often that when you're crafting the story, the structure, the idea, you're outside looking in. When I'm writing the scenes already, I'm inside, and the expression in English is, you don't see the forest for the trees. In other words, you're inside, you're kind of a character in the movie. You gotta sit outside the thing, write it down in a paragraph, and see if it works. Because if it doesn't work, you're gonna spend a lot of time writing stuff, and then it's very hard. Once you've spent a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year of your life writing this thing, it's very hard to go back and go, wait a minute, let me see, does that really work? Because, so that's in a way, my gift to you is this thing about spend time working on your idea.
I would ask you questions. Yeah. Thank you for saying this. This is very meaningful, and thank you for bringing the discussion to this level. But then I have to ask, where do you start from? Where do you start from? Because the starting point for every different writer can be very different.
Right. Well, it depends on what the project is. So if I'm writing from myself to direct, or I'm writing a screenplay from an idea, I try and spend a lot of time figuring out this idea, what it is. I talk to different people. Literally, it's like 5 sentences, 3 sentences. Like, what is what's the film? Who's the hero of the movie? What's happening? And you're trying to sell it. Like Chris said, that you're a salesperson for your story. And then I do, kind of a beat sheet, I guess you call it, outline in a page or two of like the main events that happen. Because the reason to keep these outlines short in the beginning is that you can see the entire movie pretty quickly. It's a page or two and you're going through the events and do they work before you start into... Now it's hard. It's hard because the way our brains work is as you're writing that thing, you're getting all these detailed ideas, so you write them on a different piece of paper. To me, organization is my friend. Because crafting an entire movie for an hour and a half, 2 hours, it's a lot of details that come into it. And so you gotta stay organized. Now it's different if I'm hired as a writer to rewrite a story, to rewrite a script that has problems. Here's the thing about rewriting though. I find that most, somebody calls me up and says, hey Ernie, here's, we have this, action movie and you've done some Jean-Claude Van Damme stuff, can you, rewrite it, and it's just a polish to get us the dialogue. And you read the script, And then you think, boy, their problem is not the dialogue. The dialogue is really easy to fix. Their problem is the fucking story does not work. So then here's my tool for that, and it takes a lot of time, and they all expect you to do it very fast, but I always say, your rewrite, what you think is a polish, is going to take me 6 weeks to do. And they're like, oh my God, but that other kid who came out of university yesterday says they'll do it in 5 days. And I'm like, you know what, hire that kid. Because here's the thing, what I need to do is to take that script and break it down into, again, its beats, and write it all out, and figure out what works and doesn't work in the structure before I polish their dialogue. Polishing their dialogue is usually, for me anyway, really easy. It's figuring out where's the twist, where's the turn, where's the surprise, what's the sting missing, and it's very hard when it's an original script, but it's a full script. And then you got to go back and figure that stuff out.